Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our session Creative Approach. What do customers expect from super brokers and agents? Or the name in Thai. My name is Chonthicha Sangpan. I am a Chief Executive Officer and co founder of Analytist Company Limited. I am an expert of using data to help businesses. And today I will be the moderator for this session. And together we will learn about how can we approach our customer creatively, especially when digital has disrupts almost everything around us, including the way our customers consume content and to choose their products and how can we make them trust in our brand. Today we have an expert in gaining trust from our consumers, and our expert today is Mr. Pachara Yongjiranon. He's a managing director and co-founder of SpeakPro Training, and we meet him in a few minutes. But before we get there, let me introduce him. He's an expert in training, especially he helped many organizations in terms of sales and communication. And startup business know Mr. Billy very well, especially he trained many startups, trained the startups to gain trust from the investor. And not just the startups, he also teaches many people, many level of people from the top executive to the staff and many organizations, including FWD, Alliance Technology Thailand, SC Asset, KTC, and also Tesco Lotus. And with him, I believe that there are many stories to be shared today. Please welcome Mr. Billy to our session. Hello, everyone. Hello, Mr. Billy. I believe that we are very lucky to have you today, Kun Billy. And the first question, how are things doing today? I believe that we have seen so many online training and there were lots of disruption. Yes, before COVID, we used to do face-to-face training before COVID, and then lockdown came in, people stay at home, we could not travel. There were many things that were put on hold, but most of the cases we have adapted. Many organizations just changed from face-to-face to online training. So most training courses are done through Zoom or MS Team. And there are many changes. And I also need to adapt myself too. I normally used to face teaching rather than online. Yes, but it still work, right? You still have a lots of students. And what about the topic of training? Do you need to change the format accordingly to the topic? We still teach the same thing, but the way we teach might be a bit different. I also need to change my content like communication and presentation and sales. Uh, we need to teach new way of communication. For example, how to communicate effectively through Zoom. Do we need to use any equipment to help with the presentation? So there are many tools and equipments like computer, camera, lights, and everything, and also the slide decks and other media that we need to accommodate our communication. And also for sales, we need to find a new way to get leads and to get new customer. This is one of the biggest challenges nowadays, especially for sales team. In the past, we used to be able to call a company and to get the decision maker or the influencer. But today, everybody is staying at home. So nobody's going to take your phone call easily. So you need to find a new way in order to communicate and contact with your customers. Wow, I believe that really nailed the point in my first question because this is really a challenge that we need to find a way to tackle with it. But I believe that today everybody's going to have some nice tips from Kun Billy. We have heard from you, sir, about the disruption, and it's very difficult to get to the customers. And this is possibly one of the biggest challenge. So it's not just not easy to get to the customer, but there are so many changes. Besides of these, Billy, do you see any other trends maybe from other industries, maybe a bit more high value industry? So it will be much closer to our insurance products. I believe that our insurance sales are having many questions in their mind, and this is one of them. A new trend. I believe that today everything is now digital, everything is now online. So the trend is more like different platforms and how can we use these platforms to help building our brands, like using TikTok or LinkedIn or the new application that our new generation of consumer are using? They are quite different. They prefer more social platform, like especially in Thailand. more than 94% of Thai populations use Facebook, right? And everybody use social media. And this is something that, I mean, the new trend is possibly the new technique to communicate with the consumers and how to approach customers. But theoretically speaking, sales, most of the cases are still the same. So I can say that you can leverage your old capability with new techniques, right? New techniques and also new appearance in the online world. Actually, I have seen many industries like real estate agent, like agents are building their own profiles online and to communicate with consumers. And is there any trainings that you have done about this? Not that often. I would say not that often. To build your own social presence, like how to build your own presence and to get people to know you. Actually, it's very time consuming because it's not very easy. You know, when you want to start a profile in Facebook or a new page, you might start with very small amount of followers. It's going to take some time to build your customer base from there. I believe that's including gaining trust, right? Yes, certainly. Um, so there are two key strategies that salespeople must understand. First, passive and then active. You need to be both follower and hunter. You need to tackle our customers in a different perspective. But on the other hand, we have to be a bit more passive, like wait and listen and then take care of your customers in order to establish long-term relationships. Wow, this is really interesting. I like your passive and active concept. Now, active, you mean you approach your target segment, right? And that can be maybe you increase the visibility, or maybe it's an online marketing, isn't it? Online marketing is also part of it. Like I said, we cannot expect, when you start, especially, you cannot expect to build like very effective social media and flyers. Not there. I don't think there are many followers who, when you start, not many people know you, right? You might not get a lot of views. So at the beginning, the first stage, when you start building your own presence or your brand, you need to be more proactive and approach your customers, not just putting things online and wait until people come and interact. There are many techniques as well. It depends on what types of sales you are, if you are B2C or B2B. Like for B2C, yes, you might be focusing on social media like TikTok and more about those social media marketing. But if your customer is B2B, you might have to do something a bit more below the line. You need to call your customers. You need to find a way to contact them. Maybe you need to send some messages to them, and maybe you need to find a way to contact them. And you also need to change your mindset because you need to understand that sales for insurance, most people have a negative view on them, right? People don't really like insurance when they call them. That's the fact. You have to admit that because when I teach salespeople, if everyone in this room, do you want to talk to an insurance broker when you get a call from a stranger? And most people say no, right? Honestly, they say no because that's the mindset. But for a salesperson, you might need to change the sale, your mindset. You also need to change your mindset too because sometimes you are too pushy. But first, you need to gain trust and make them feel like approachable, and that will be a long-term relationship. Maybe you need a mindset of a counselor or an advisor rather than sales. Oh, very good. So not just being active, but you also need a new mindset so you become more amicable and approachable. So what about the passive side? Is there any suggestion? Well, can you repeat that again? Passive, sir. You already mentioned active part, but what about the passive part besides of the online presence? What are passive strategies and how can we do it more creatively? In this case, passive is first, passive is something that it's more like wait and see. It doesn't really use a lot of skills, but the most important skills of all when you talk about passive is how to capture the trend, how to see the trend, how to understand the customers' demographic and customers' needs. And because there are, many influencers and people who might follow your message. When you announce about your sales, maybe it can be a short video, it can be a flyer, it can be, you need to find a way to match with your target segment's demand or needs. It's about passive selling. All right, you mentioned short video, right? Yes, yes. You need to understand your customer's pain point and their behavior. It's not like, okay, you have a product and say that, hey, we have this thing on sales, but the message might have to be changed. Have you seen anything like this, for example? Have you ever fall into this kind of situation? And when you face this situation, we can help you, for example. Oh, but before we can get there, we need to find a way to understand them more, right? To understand the customer's pain point. Based on Mr. Billy's experience and maybe based on what you have seen from other sales, not just for insurance, any kind of sales. How do they find this kind of information? There are two main things. And the first is for large organization, they have their marketing team, right? And this marketing team need to do their marketing research and things like focus group interview and to gather data to learn about what really is their customer's pain point. But you are just a salesperson, not with a very big organization to support you. You might have to rely on the sales team, especially like insurance sales or brokers. You might need to, it might take some time for you to be able to find out what is your customer's need. We cannot really say that the customer is God, right? We cannot really do that. We need to change the mindset. It goes back to the point of a mindset. You need to have more of a consultant mindset to be able to talk to your customers and to learn from them what is it that they want or what is their problem or something that it's like you are doing investigation. You need to investigate and find out what is the customer's problem, what is the available opportunity, or maybe to know about that there are things that they can improve. This is part of those things that you can do. I believe investigation is based on a conversation, or do you have any investigation tools that you can share with us? A conversation, basically, there are many techniques that you can do, but as I say, as a salesperson, you need to have a consultant mindset. You need to approach your customers, especially in your first call. Don't think about trying to sell. Don't think about trying to promote your product. You need to listen to your customers first. You need to investigate. You need to ask questions. Because there are, surveys, there are numbers of surveys. Actually, I find more than 44% of the customer, they say that the insurance company don't understand themselves or their business. This is their perspective. So we need to change their mindsets. So you have to think about it like you take some time to learn about them, to learn about their pain points to begin with. And this is especially for B2B, I think. You know, sometimes if you are a company and you want to buy some, protection for your organization or to protect some of your benefits, sometimes you don't even have a knowledge to begin with. And maybe they say that the insurance business don't really understand that business. So as a broker or agents or insurance sellers, you need to have this kind of technique in your toolkits. First, you may need to know how to ask the right question, quality question. You need to know how to use these questions to lead you to the insight. And then there's nothing wrong if you send some Google document questionnaire to your clients and they can even come back and have a look at it later. And don't forget that sales team is mostly they are the first touch point with the customers. And you are the first one who talk to the customer. This is a very good opportunity to collect some more insight. Yes, marketing team can help you to certain extent, but the real insight that we can really use, actually, it came from the sales team and the customers. So you mean that an organization must provide some tools to support the agents to collect data? It is for the organization's sake, so they can use those data for the analysis, right? And also the sales team will become more capable. Yes, these tools can be something like a set of questions for a salesperson, and he or she can carry it with himself or herself, and they can have a look at this short note, what question to ask. For example, what are the challenges you are facing today, for example, and like, what is your biggest concern today? What keeps you up in the night, for example? Maybe it's about an accident, maybe it's about their health. This kind of question is something that you might be able to ask. So you need to keep these answers, questions in your mind so you can deep dive into what can be your opportunities. I believe that there are some training in the insurance because we also want to get customers' data, and we also collect the data from, you know, third party company or external entities to put together a persona and learn about the customer's pain points. But I believe that the technology can also really help us. But today, as Mr. Billy said, everybody wants to collect data. So we want them to ask a lot of questions so they can understand the customers. And if they can do some research, maybe it can be very helpful. So we understand our customers much better. But anyhow, like Billy said, that every customers are, they can be different. So the best thing is to talk to them. Yes, certainly. Yes. Right, right. It's very important. Conversation is crucial because we know that everybody believes that technology is important and an application is going to do all the deals. People want convenience, people want things fast, people want understand, they just want to understand their product. They don't like things that are too complicated because what the customer really want is fast service. And when there's an accident, for example, and when they need to file a claim, they need to get it fast. They want a good, a trustworthy consultant or advisor. This is really about sales thing, right? You need to be a real expert. You need to understand your product inside out to the point where you can provide consultation to your customers. Reading is not like listening. There are different types of learner. There are people who are good at listening. There are people who are good at reading. There are different types of people and different types of capability, but you need to understand that different salesperson are different as well as different customers. Another very important part is to get the most suitable service to the customer and to gain trust from them. Because, nowadays, health is more important than ever, especially during COVID pandemic. And you have seen so many things on the news, like you have heard a news from a insurance company who just cancel, all the policy by themselves. So that's really ruined their trust. But people listen to this kind of thing, so they are very aware and they have become very concerned about all the situations. Wow, and I agree. That's very important. Trust is also very important, and it normally takes time. You cannot really gain trust in a short time. So you got to take it slow. Every bit and every little things are very important, and both active and passive. So you mean that to build our brand or our online presence to gain trust is very important. So in this regard, do you have any tips or techniques, or maybe your experience, Billy, that you can recommend to some similar products like high value product or the product that really need lots of customer trust, or a technique that help us gain more trust from the online presence? I think you mentioned a short video, right? But what else we can do? Um, Techniques that help our customer to trust in us and to buy things from us. Basically, I think something of a value. Um, it takes time to make a decision, right? And gaining trust, as I said, is very important for social media, especially. For example, my course also has certain value to let people understand. For me, I think it is very important to provide them the right thing. Even though my course is expensive, I might be able to provide some short courses like half an hour or 1 hour, or maybe short video clip to share some knowledge. Because this is one of the technique to gain trust from them. I want them to know more about me rather than charging them upfront, right? And for insurance, I think if you want to gain trust from people, you might need to share. I mean, you might need to be able to share some success stories, some of the success story from your past clients or your current clients. Show them some result, or maybe a open session, half an hour consultation session for free, talking to your customer so they know that you are an expert. And to a certain point, they will start to trust in you and start interest more in your product. These presents allow us to get to know more people and vice versa. And then that's a way to establish a relationship. You need to have the right mindset and you need to think about building long-term relationship with your customers. It will be a relationship-based model. In simple words, don't think about your customer as a one-nighter, not like a one-night stand. If you compare with a relationship, your customer is more like a life partner, not a one-night stand. So you really need to have some commitment. You really need to have some dedication in order to gain trust, in order to show them that we will always be with them. Whoa, not just a one-night stand. It's a long-lasting relationship. I think that is about to be a life partner with someone. You really need to understand that person. You really need to put some effort into it. And you really need to have a lots of communication. So that goes back to the point at the beginning of this session. And then we need tools to help us gather as many as possible data. But speaking about social media, you mentioned short video clip, and if you want to try some new media channel like TikTok, is there any interesting media or platform that you can suggest for, I mean, for our sales team? So maybe they need to give it a try. Maybe they can find a new opportunity. Mm, like I said, for media, like B2C, you can look at Facebook and TikTok. But for B2C, maybe it's possibly LinkedIn. Like my connection in LinkedIn, at the beginning, I had less than 1,000 connections. But today I have 10,000 of connections in my LinkedIn because I am quite active there and I try to add people into my connection and my LinkedIn will help me get the contact information. That's one of the function. You can extract the information like contact information, like email or maybe even phone number. You can extract those information and then I can email to my customer, like blast emailing them. And then we can talk about the organization. Maybe we can approach that person through the organization. You are not pushing, right? Stop about it, suggesting or proposing. If you say you want to propose a product or service, no, no, don't do that. You need to focus on the help. Like when you talk to your customer, you need to say that, hey, today I have something that might be able to help you. For example, how we can help you with this problem? For example, maybe we have a service to serve you. For example, it sounds much better. It sounds more like a counselor or a consultant than a salesperson. So I normally use these two terms, right? And okay, for social media, the useful ones are like for B2B, I think LinkedIn, because it's a professional platform and it gives you a lots of things you need. Who is the decision maker? Who is the influencer in an organization? And most of the decision makers are people who are in charge of like HRD, for example, for training, it will be HRD and maybe we can talk about employee relationship or employee benefits. So this way you can get to the person in charge and then you can get more decision quickly. That's another channel I can suggest. And one more channel, certainly nowadays there are so many social media platforms. There are also specialized platform for HR and insurance where people are active to see what is in the trend, what people are talking about in their industry. And if you can find these groups, you might be able to mingle with them, get to know more about them. And maybe you can also follow the big group, like group with many members, specialized group, especially in specialized business like you. And, don't be so conserved. Traditionally, you only think about making phone call. You have to go through all those gatekeepers and security and secretary before you can get to that department to talk to their bosses. And then when you get to their bosses need to wait until the decision maker to sign off. No, it's very traditional. But yes, it is still quite important. But on the other hand, we also see a new change because we can skip all these steps I have just mentioned. If you can use the social media and the contact information on social media, you can skip those gatekeepers and maybe you can contact the person directly in the platform. But let's think about it carefully because not always, it doesn't always work. And it might not be that professional. It might not be suitable, but I think LinkedIn is a good way to start. Okay. I believe that we have learned a lot about both B2B and B2C today. And I believe that there are some questions from our audience based on what Billy has just shared with us. And today we have learned about how to build an online presence and marketing. And we also learned about several keywords like no propose, but help. Can we get some more keywords? Maybe two more keywords or tips that can be a secret password that we can continue to use. Keywords. Keywords. It can be a phrase. I think it can be a phrase, right? Something like, okay, don't forget that the best salesperson don't think about themselves as a sales. They think about themselves as a friend. I think that's a a very important tip. And the second tip is, don't forget that. Your mindset is the most important thing. Don't let the customer manage you. This is very important. You need to be the one who manage the customer. So if you talk about keywords, these are one of my favorites. To be a good salesperson, you must be able to be the one who manage the customer and not letting the customer manage you. For example, most of the salespeople, when they talk to their customers, they believe that they are a step below your customers. Maybe they don't feel like they have enough value to offer. Maybe you talk to the customer, you can say that, sir, do you have a few minutes to spare with me? For example, this kind of mindset is people who let the customer manage you because most of the cases they will say, no, I don't have time, right? No, I'm not available. No, I don't have the policy. So you need to find a way to manage your customers. That's the mindset you need. And you need to be to know how to push the customer politely and to the right extent. Rather than asking, do you have a few minutes for us? Maybe you can ask him or her directly, hey, what about next Tuesday or Thursday? Or can we talk to Zoom call? Maybe Tuesday. What about 10 in the morning or 4 in the evening? Okay, 4 in the afternoon would be great. I will confirm you even in an email. Thank you so much. I'm not going to bother you anymore. That's it. You push it in the right way, right? Don't let them manage you, manage them. This is one of the tips I can teach you. And that's one of the best tips I have. And yes, please continue. Please continue. Yes, and on the other hand, nowadays there are many new skills, especially communication skills. There are three main things here. Like, you need to understand your customer's problem and investigating and asking the right question is also very important. And then that leads to the second communication. As I said in the beginning, the communication has changed. So you need to know how to use the machine. You need to know how to use Zoom meeting. You need to know how to create nice virtual background or to create the best customer experience to your customers. If you're still wearing t-shirt or pajamas in a Zoom meeting, how can you impress your customers? What about putting up some nice professional dress with your company logo in the background, for example, and then present professionally? This is a very important ingredient. And thirdly, you need to know how to write on the trend. Like trend is based on your information. Maybe it's from partly it's from your organization, maybe it's from your marketing department, maybe the other part is from yourself. But I suggest you rely more on yourself. You must be observant, asking right question, get in touch with your customers, and try to get as many data as possible. And you can also get some more data from social media like LinkedIn, different groups, and try to see what is up and coming. And you can also watch the news. If you are not up to date, you might not know how to respond. If you don't know about the news and the customer asks and you cannot answer, the customer say that, hey, what about that company? Insurance companies are the same, right? For example, you need to know about the news and updates so you can be able to respond to your customers. Right, precisely. Wow. I believe that we are running out of time, but today we have learned a lot from Billy. So let me summarize today's session for our audience. And what we learned from Billy today is first, for the sales technique nowadays, yes, everybody need to adapt themselves. Maybe you can use your skills in sales, but in a different way to approach the customer with technology and with social media. Because, as you know, COVID prevents us from meeting each other. Social media is one of the most approachable channels. And in order to make social media work, we need to understand first about who we are talking to, right? We need to understand what is their pain point. And maybe you can create a short video clip, or maybe you can share some knowledge through Facebook. And also, we should always keep our eyes open and try to find a way to approach and investigate and to get some insight from your target group. And investigation can be like getting in a special topic page, or maybe a product page, or maybe you just talk to people who we want to get to know more about them. Talk to them and also change your mindset, right? Like Billy said, we should have the consultant mindset. We are not selling, we are helping, right? In order to gain trust from them. So that's roughly for today. And for the suggested media for B2B, we can look at LinkedIn, and I believe that everybody can try that. And for B2C, yes, Facebook, precisely. That's on the top. And there are so many other channels that we should follow up and keep up with the update. Maybe this change might last for a year, right, Mr. Billy? But I believe that we need to change more often in the future. And thank you very much, Billy, for today. Thank you so much for joining us and share with us your experience. And if you want to know more from Billy, please feel free to contact Mr. Billy right away. And for our InsurTech Fair, we still have a lot more interesting sessions, so please have a look at other sessions. But today, thank you so much, Mr. Billy, and everyone, thank you so much.